1, 2, 3, go. So hello everyone, welcome. We are going to be discussing the Wipro NLTH coding questions, right? So let's go ahead. And as always, there are a lot of companies that are hiring. Make sure that you follow us on all our social media handles. The link to all of those is in the description of the video. Just to very quickly show you, there are a few companies. So let's say you'll visit this page. We have different Instagram for different batches, right? So there are a few companies. For example, Wipro as of now is hiring. Cisco is hiring. Deloitte is hiring. Then Microsoft as of now is hiring. There are a lot of companies that are hiring. So we put the link on our social media handles. Make sure that you follow all of them, because sometime we'll post it on Telegram, but we'll not post it on WhatsApp because to be honest, we're a little greedy about followers. Again, as always, the top 3 come in, get the Prime Video subscription absolutely free, right? So let's go ahead. So this is something that I've already taken care of in my recruitment process video for Wipro. You'd be given 60 minutes. There would be 2 coding questions. One would be easy. Ideally, so you can switch between both of these questions, right? So 2 questions, you have 60 minutes. If you want to solve first question, and then you want to move ahead to the second question, you can do it. That's not a problem. However, this is what we are suggesting. For the first question, you should not be taking more than 20 minutes, because the second question will definitely be taking you approximately 40 minutes. Now, what we've seen so far is, generally if you give AMCAT exams, there are 2 coding questions, but the time is 45 minutes, and both of the question are medium difficulty. But in Wipro, every year we've seen that the second question is too difficult. To be honest, even if I solve it, maybe a possibility that I would not be able to solve it. And you'll see in the video, I'll be solving one of those questions which actually would have come in the exam. I wouldn't have had been able to solve it, right? So we'll see about it, the kind of practice questions, so on and so forth. We'll see about it a little later. So you can code in C, C++, Java, Python, all of these languages. Python 2.7 and 2.3, both of them would be there, right? Also, the kind of questions that you can expect. So I'll just go to our Wipro, I'll just go to our Prime Video course of Wipro. So the kind of questions, this is the Prime Video course for Wipro. If you're a Prime student, so you can go ahead and watch all of these things, right? So basically, working with arrays, working with numbers, strings, matrices, bit magic, pattern, looping, advanced looping, mathematics. So this is basically your easy level of question would be based upon. The second question would be based upon maybe this, but a difficult one. Or the second question could also be a data structures question based upon recursion of DSA, binary search tree, heaps, graphs, backtracking, etc., etc. So last time we saw two questions kind of based upon the linked list pattern, and a lot of questions based upon trees and binary search trees, right? So again, you can check the whole syllabus also on prepinsta.com as well. We'll talk about this a little later. So let's try to understand the question. Okay. Now, I want you to pause the video as of now, because there's no point of me reading all of these line by line, right? And I want you to look at the question. And to be honest, then be confused. Definitely you will be confused that, okay, this question kind of looks very difficult and I'm not able to understand what's happening, right? So to be honest, these are kind of case study type of questions which are, they create a story around it. But if you look at the question, and this is basically the easy question, which is something that you should not be taking more than 20 minutes to solve, right? If you look closely, forget about everything. Forget about how difficult reading comprehension kind of question this is. eBay and parameters. So there are some certain X products and they want to calculate their pricing. Okay. Then there is a stock unit parameter. This stock unit parameter, which is basically SKU. And this parameter will denote how many items are there in the fulfillment center. So from what I understood as of now is, eBay has, just like Flipkart or Amazon, right? They have a lot of packages in their warehouses, and there are different items. For each item, there is a SKU unit, right? So for example, let's say if they have 1 item, 2nd item, 3rd item, 4th item, 5th item, so on and so forth. So they have a number which is SKU, that okay, this is mine, this is 8, this is 0. It could also be -3. Let's say people ordered more, but it's not there in the fulfillment center. So there are 3 extra orders somehow, right? 2, 1. So basically, this is in kind of an array which is SKU, which is denoted by stock units, SKUs. Okay. Now, a positive number would denote that the items are there in the fulfillment center and thus can be shipped to the customer. So just I was saying, we can ship, we cannot ship here, we cannot ship here, we can ship the product, and we can ship the product here also. Why? Because it's a positive number. So a 0 or negative number means that, okay, even though that the product is listed on the website, but it's currently unavailable and thus cannot be shipped, right? Now let's read at the second part of the question. What they are also saying, the price of each product varies based upon the distance of the user from the fulfillment center. Obviously, let's say you are buying a phone. The phone is, let's say, in Gurgaon, but let's say you live in Jaipur, and there's one more person who lives in Hyderabad. Now obviously the phone has to travel from Gurgaon to, let's say, Hyderabad, or from Gurgaon to, let's say, Jaipur. So in that case, the pricing for both of them may be a little different, because the strategy of the company is based upon the pricing based upon the distance, right? So that's exactly what they are saying. Now these values are in 00 kilometers for each centurion kilometers. To be honest, if you read this line, what it's basically saying, rather than writing 3200 as kilometers as a distance, what they've done is they've just written 32, which means 3200, by the way, right? The prices will increase by the factor distance. Now this is basically what they're saying, the prices will increase by the factor distance. To be honest, even I don't understand what it is. I'm hoping that from the input test cases, sample input output test cases, I will be able to understand. We have to find the maximum discounted price for each product that can be shipped, and following are the input output parameters. To be honest, I understand the question, but I still have a lot of doubts. I'm like, okay, as of now, what I understood is eBay, they have their warehouses which are called as fulfillment center. There are some products, positive, negative numbers. Positive means it can be shipped, negative or 0 means it cannot be shipped. And the pricing of the product is dependent upon the distance of your house to wherever the fulfillment center is, right? That's what I've understood as of now. Beyond that, I'm not able to understand. So in the input output, this is where we'll actually be understanding. The first line contains the number of product. Okay. So 6 products. Obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So next line also we have 6 numbers. Okay, let's read what. So next line is the prices for each of these products. Unit prices of these products. Okay. So these are the prices. The next line is the shipping distance of these products. So 300 kilometer, 100, 900, 200, 100, 200. So this is the distance that they were talking about. And then finally, fourth line has SKUs. SKUs is basically how many units are available, right? So there are 7 units. There are minus 21 units, basically, which means that, okay, they somehow accepted more orders, but it's not there in the fulfillment center, right? 30 units, 0 units, minus 4, minus 3. And then there's a sample output. Now, to be honest, I still don't understand what I'm supposed to code. I do, but let's say if I were you, I would not have understood how to code. Now let's try to look at a little relationship between the input and output. Okay, the question is too difficult to understand. Okay, so as of now, the first kind of relationship that I'm able to establish is they are saying output is the final price. So final price of the product. Okay, now there are 2 final prices. Let's look at the sample input. How to? So let's count the positive numbers. So there is 1 positive number, then there is 1 more positive number, and then this is negative, this is 0, this is negative, this is negative, right? So in this case, what essentially is happening is there are only 2 products that can be shipped, right? So for example, this is what can be shipped and this is what can be shipped, which is why there are 2 outputs in this particular case. So let's have a look upon a few other observations. So if I see 7 here and I see 30 here, now let's have a look upon the corresponding parameters. So for 7, I have 3 and 87. So what is 3? 3 is nothing but the distance, and 87 is nothing but your price per unit product, right? So in that case, if you multiply 87 by 3, the answer would be basically 240 plus 21. So it's 261, which is basically this. To be honest, I did not, when I was reading this question, right, I did not understand it. I looked at the sample input output, and that is where I understood it. And the same thing is going by for the other one. That is for 30, the third number is 9, and 103, I'm sorry, 229 into 9 is basically 2061. So this is the output for that. Now I've understood it. Now let me explain you how this is working with the help of some basic visual things, right? So, and we'll begin to code after that. So eBay has a fulfillment center. Now in that fulfillment center, they basically want to calculate the final price, right? And that final price they only want to calculate for the products, and then there can be multiple products, right? But only for the products wherein the SKUs are greater than 0. That is the products that are already there in this warehouse. If it is not there, so it's 0. And maybe there are more orders, so it could be negative also, right? Now, for such kind of products, the final pricing is nothing but your distance into unit price. And the distance is dependent upon the distance from the fulfillment center to anybody's home. So that's basically it. What we need to do is, we need to look for products which are greater than 0. Their SKU values are greater than 0. And then finally multiply distance into price for all of those things, and just simply go ahead and print this. Now this is very simple. To be honest, 20 minutes is absolutely perfect for it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to code in C++ and Python. Java thing will not code, but we'll give you in the comment section. You can check the comment section. We'll give you the code. Again, top 3 comments. If you have a better code than mine, you can always go ahead with that. So let me just go ahead and show you how the C++ code of this is looking. And basically it's very stupid for me to code. I've already coded it. It's very basic code. So I'll rather be focusing upon explaining you the all existing code, and then after that I'll explain you the Python code, because there's a minor difference in that. Okay. So items is basically the number of items that we are basically having, right? So 6, right? So let me just go ahead and show you. So for example, 6 here is the number of items. So I'm storing that in item here. Then price list, basically it's an array which will have list of all the prices, right? So for example, the prices are this 87, 103, 229, 41. So I'll store in that. Then same thing, an array, distance list, which is bracket items, because we already have taken the input of it from C in here. And then SKU list is basically, so distance is this line, SKU is this line. So what I'm doing is, first of all, since it's a C++ code, so I have no other option. So I have to run 3 for loops to accept all of these values in the array. Then I'm creating something called as result. And result, basically, I've given safe side. I've given that, okay, it could be possible that all of those are, all the products are available. That is, their SKU value is greater than 0 for all of them. So which is why I've given bracket items here. And I've set this count is equals to 0. I'll explain you a little later why. Then basically what I'm doing is, I'm running a for loop. Why I'm running a for loop? Because first of all, for each of the products that are there, I want to first check that, okay, is your SKU value greater than 0? Yes or no? So I will be checking for all of these products one by one, which is why I need a for loop. So which is why I have this for loop, and I'm just checking SKU list is greater than 0 or not. If it's not greater than 0, so we don't need to do anything. We don't need to print it, right? But if it's greater than 0, so what I'm doing is, and I'm saying as of now, my count value is 0. So as soon as I encounter my first SKU which is greater than 0 for any product, I'm saying result of count, that is basically result. So let's say result of 0 is equal to the price list. So let's say for example, the values that are there are -3, -4, 2, 0, 5, right? So when I'll run my for loop for this one, I'll not get anything because obviously this condition will not satisfy because SKU is -3. Then I'll move ahead to the for loop, this -4. So basically as of now, I is 0 and as of now, I is 1. So for this also, it will not satisfy. For the first time, it will satisfy for I is equals to 2. And you remember, my count value as of now is still 0. So what I'm doing is, in my result array, so I'm saying result of count, which is nothing but result of 0, is nothing but whatever is the price. So corresponding to this, there would be a price also in the whatever we've accepted, let's say here. So let's say the price is 10. So basically 10 into, let's say, corresponding to it, there would be a distance also. So let's say 5. So 10 into 5 is 50. So I'll store. And then immediately I'll do count plus plus, because when the next time my for loop is running for, let's say, this 5, I want to store in result of 1. So which is why I need to do count plus plus. And simply, lastly, what I'm doing is I'm printing it result of I, and I'm running only till count, because count is only getting incremented when the SKU list is greater than 0. So I'm only printing for those which cases that I got to know that, okay, the SKU list is greater than 0. So basically this is how your C code will work, right? So let's talk about the Python code. Now, for the Python code, I am going to assume that whatever I've explained in this, so let's say if you're watching for the Python code and you skip the middle part, go back, because I've explained the C code. To be honest, the logic behind the Python code and C code is exactly the same, so you'll understand everything there. But I'll kind of take a liberty that you as a Python user were also watching my C explanation. So the same thing, that is items in input. Here I'm basically collecting all the prices in a list format, collecting all the distance list format, collecting all the SKU in list format. I'm declaring result, which is an empty list. And then finally I'm running for I in range 0 to the length of SKU list. That is, I iterate upon the whole array, or I iterate upon the whole 6 elements. Do the same thing. If this is greater than 0, then result dot append, and then calculate it, and then finally I'm printing it using join, right? So more or less, this is how your code would be working. Your Java code, to be honest, would be exactly same as your C++ code. It's just that rather than printing system out would be working, and let's say to get it system in, so on and so forth would be happening, right? So that's pretty much about it. So in the next basically code, let's have a look upon that. So okay, so let's have a look upon the next code here. Now the next code is also, so basically this the sample question that I've taken here is a little at a difficult end, and essentially you will be given a time of or 60 minutes, but ideally you should be able to solve it within 40 minutes, or basically save time from the previous question. And to be honest, I'll tell you this, if this question would have come for me in my exam, I wouldn't have had been able to solve it. So I've taken a very good example here for you, a very good practice question for all of you, right? So basically what they are saying is, pause the video, you have to understand all of this. I hope that you've read everything. So basically what they're saying is, there are two circles and you're supposed to be calculating the intersectional area between these two. And what you are having as an input here is the center of both circles and their individual radius. So for example, 3, 3, 3, what is that? So in, let's say, the X and Y coordinates, right? So your 3, 3, 3 is basically this point, for example. And what they are saying is that the radius of this is also 3. And then there is one more circle, which is nothing but, let's say 4, 4, 4, for example. And then there is, the radius of that is nothing but 2, right? So 4, 4 is this center, and the radius of this is 2. 3, 3 for this is the center, and the radius for this is 3. and then thus you have to calculate this common area, for example. Now, how do you go about it? Do that? For as soon as I look at this question now, I know for a fact I'm going to be using a lot of mathematics. And as soon as I look upon the question, I'm like, okay, I need to remember some formulas like Heron's formula, underscore of s minus a whole square minus s minus b whole square, the area of a sector, etc., etc., etc. So I don't remember those formulas, but somehow they are expecting you to remember those formulas. So which is why I wouldn't have been able to solve the question at the very same time. But the irony of the matter is, if you want to clear the round, you have to solve the question. Okay, so let's go ahead. Ideally, most of the people, I'd not say this upfront, but you would probably, let's say, if you can check the internet, so it'll help you a little in terms of the formula, the only thing, right? So let's have a look upon this. So basically, there are three cases of calculating an area. The first case is, what if the two circles do not meet each other at all, just like it's given in the image here, right? So let's say the two circles, and even in the, let's say, Cartesian plane or x and y coordinates, let's say first circle is this, and let's say second circle is this. They don't meet at all. So in that case, what would be your intersectional area? Your intersectional area would be 0. But that's fine. In theory, it looks good, but in terms of code, how would you go about it? Now, if you read mathematics really well, so in that case, you would know that two circles will overlap only and only if this given condition stands true. That is, if the distance between the center of this and distance between the center of this, so let's say these two distances, that distance is greater than the sum of their radius. So obviously, as you can see here, let me just change the color of my pen so that, right? So obviously, this is, for example, your R2. This is, for example, your R1. Let's say this R2 is 3 and this R1 is 4. And the distance between these two is, for example, 11. Now, your answer directly would be 0 if the distance between the mid or the center of this circle and this circle is greater than R1 plus R2. That is this distance and this distance. Obviously, it's very, very visible from our drawing itself, right? So simple, right? So basically, if I want to calculate distances between any 2 points, it's a simple thing, that is x2 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus y1 whole square under root of it, if I remember correctly, right? So that's pretty much about it. Now, the second case could also be the whole small or one of those circles is completely inside the other circle. Now, again, for this one also, we have a certain kind of special rule wherein the distance between the midpoints of this and this, or the center between this and this, and you can read it more about it on the internet also, is lesser than your R1 minus R2. If that happens, so the only thing that you would need to do is, you would need to figure out, let's say if R1 is greater than R2, so obviously the area would be pi R square. And pi R2 square. And if R1 is smaller than R2, right? So in that case, your area would be pi R1 square. So whichever is the smaller one, you will pick that, and that would be your intersectional area. So, but again, the third case also arises. What if they intersect, but intersect in a way like this? Now, this is where mathematical formulas are going to happen. So let's have a look upon this. To be honest, I also Googled it. Now, I Googled the same thing, that is intersection formula for intersection between two circles. Now, there's a very humongous page you can read out. So there are 2 pages that personally I got. Now, what they are more or less saying on both of these pages itself is that if you want to calculate the area, right? So you're supposed to be calculating this area, that is this, and obviously the other part also. Now, in terms of my mathematical knowledge, how would I calculate it? Would be, let's say, for me to calculate this area, if I can somehow calculate the area of the sector, and then somehow I can subtract this triangle, and then thus I'll get this area. So this is my intuition says, but to be honest, it doesn't matter. Now, a lot of you would argue, sir, if this question comes in my exam, how do I tackle it? How do I get to know about all of this? So again, the same thing, right? In our Prime Video subscription, you're not just getting access to Wipro, but other courses as well, right? So for example, data structures, competitive coding, intermediate coding, basic coding. So these kind of geometrical codes also between intersection, etc., were already covered in our Prep Insta Prime Video subscription, right? And all this code was also there in our Wipro in our Wipro course as well. So that's how you go ahead about it. So we'll talk about this a little later, but basically if you speak to any competitive programmer or somebody who's really good at coding, they'll just simply say, yeah, that's a standard question. It gets asked very frequently. It's just that we have to Google a little formulas. But more or less, in terms of coding logic, we understand everything, right? So in terms of the same thing, the final formula, if you look here is, and let me just zoom in all of these things a little. So the final formula comes out to be, we have to calculate something called as A intersection, which has 2 components. That is, that is this particular part plus this particular part. So the mathematical equation, mathematical coding would be a little complicated, wherein your value of D1 and D2 is basically calculated. So for example, D1 is calculated using this way, using this formula, and your D2 is calculated using this formula. Now, to be honest, it's fairly easy to write the code or to write the formula in the code, but there are a few things that a lot of people will do wrong. So firstly, I'll do the same thing, that I'll explain the C++ code, and then I will go ahead and explain the Python code, right? So the first thing that's happening inside the code is, first of all, I've just basically done T minus minus, so that if there are more than one, you basically, let's say if there are more than 1 test cases or 2 test cases, so whatever is this part of the code will run twice, ask input twice, etc., right? The second thing is, I'm not using int. This is a mistake that a lot of people make. Do not use int. If you're using coding in C and C++, and if you're working with a very difficult large numbers, wherein it could be fractions, etc., numerical digits, etc., so work with long double. So basically, x1, y1, r1. This is your x1, y1, that is the center for circle 1, and r1 is basically the center for or the radius for circle 1. Same thing, x2, y2, r2. D is what we need, and R1 square, R2 square, and D square is something that we'll use. So rather than, calculating R square again and again using, let's say, this R1 or this R2, I've created a variable of these two, which will come a little handy, and D square, as I showed you in the formula, right? And then I'm accepting all of these values. And then I'm calculating R1 square and R2 square pre-hand, because it will be stupid to write this again and again. Okay. Now, if you look closely, one more thing that I've done here is I've defined my 3.14 here. I've defined my pi here already. Okay. Now, moving ahead, also this code would be very similar to Python. I'll show it to you a little later as well. So the next thing is, basically what we are calculating is, let's say if these are 2 points, so and this is x1 comma y1, and let's say this is x2 comma y2. I'm calculating the distance between two. Why? Because I need it, right? Maybe if the circles are not intersecting, or maybe if they are inside one another, or maybe if they are intersecting to one another, I need to know. And the only way that I just showed you a little ago is using this D. So I'm calculating this D here, and I'm doing this D square, and I'm also having this D square here, just because I'll need it in the future. Now the first thing is, Here, if you see a little closely, this line I've written, if D is greater than R1 plus R2, then your answer is nothing but 0. That is, these two circles do not meet. So our code ends here for this case 1. So let me just show it to you very, very quickly. So our code ends here for this particular test case. Now let's have a look upon the next one here. That is the second test case, which is basically this one. Now, in the first case, the first thing that I would need to figure out is the same thing. That is, D should be less than or R2 minus R1 modulus. Modulus. Do not forget modulus here. Okay. Less than or equal to. So, which is why I've used ABS here. And if only R1 is greater than R2. I'll explain you this a little later. Okay. And I've created one more else if condition. Everything else remains. So basically, if you look at this and this remains the same. There's only one change here and here. Both of them are for the test case that I showed you, this test case. I'll explain you a little later why I've done, why I have different two else cases for here. So basically, the next thing is if this condition meets, in that case, what we are saying is our D is less than R2 minus R1. So obviously our first circle and our second circle are inside, or let's say the smaller circle is inside one another. So what I'm doing here is, I'm just not doing anything. I'm just saying pi into R square. So pi R square, right? But which R? Which R? Obviously, let's say if we have the first circle, and which is basically denoted by x1, y1 and r1, and let's say if we have a second circle denoted by x2, r1, so on and so forth, right? But it could also be possible that our second circle is denoted by or let's say a second circle is the larger circle and our first circle, whatever we've taken in the input, is the smaller circle. So which is why we need to have both of these test cases, which is why I'm checking if my R1 is greater than or equal to R2. That is, if my first circle is greater than my second circle, that is, obviously if it's greater, its radius would be greater, right? So in that case, what we are doing is, we are doing nothing but we are doing pi r square, but here the R that I've chosen here would be for second circle, that is smaller. So basically, whichever is smaller, obviously R2 is smaller, so I'm doing R square of that. Same thing. Here R1 is smaller, so I'm doing R square of that. Now, moving ahead. So basically, this is the part of the code that I'll, to be honest, not help you understand. What essentially is happening here is, I've calculated some phi, I've calculated some theta here, which is an area 1 and area 2, right? So basically, and if I go back to it very, very quickly. So if you read all of this documentation and everything, you will understand that the code that is here can easily be written in this particular format. So obviously, from this particular page, you can go ahead and, from this particular page, you can go ahead and check and cross-check all of it. This is not the purpose of the video. This is very fairly easy. Basically, I'm using some phi and theta because there are some, values that are different for this and this, right? But the most important thing here is, and this is where a lot of people make mistake is, if you do not read the question properly, a problem that you would encounter here would be, that is, they're expecting the answer in a different, correct up to 2 decimals, right? So in this case, what I've done here is, because obviously this is percentage, so what I've done is, I've mentioned the precision, that is percentage 0.2 LF. So let's say if the answer is 52.347, etc., so whatever is next will not be printed. Only the first two, only till the second 2 precision level it will be printed. Now, there's one more way. On, let's say, there's one more different formula also that all of you can also use, which is essentially this formula, as you can check here. So this is the formula R1 cos inverse d square plus r square divided by 2er, r square cos inverse d square plus r square minus 1 by 2 into whole of this thing, depending upon what do you Google about it. So, maybe you Google something else, you don't come to this page, but you come to this page. So what I've done is the Python code I've created using this formula, right? Because you've seen the C code, the same thing would be Python code. It's just that looping will change and math functions will change. The Python code that I'm just going to show you is using this different formula, which is also the correct formula for both of this. So if you run them, you will get the same answer, right? So basically, this is the code for Python. What essentially is happening more or less is the same thing. Here we are accepting, here we are accepting the input. Here we are calculating, basically x1 minus x2, distance between 2 points. And if our R2 is greater than R1, then we are kind of swapping from it. And then finally, this is the formula that more or less we are using. And one more thing is, in this case, very quickly, what I've not done is I'm assuming that they will always overlap. So I've not handled per se this case, and which is fairly easy. I just realize it now because I'm looking at it now. I've handled this case and I've handled this case, both of them, using the different formula. The code of this we'll put in the comment section, so you can copy paste the code from here. If you have a better formula, you can also suggest me. Now, also one more thing is, I've on purpose chosen this question. I could have chosen some easier question that I just chose in the first. The first question was a little easier, right? I chose this question on purpose because a lot of times, we've seen that we make a YouTube video which is easy, and then we fool students in terms of that, okay, you'll do very well because you were able to understand our YouTube videos. But this time, I've on purpose chosen a difficult question because as of now, I know 90% of you would be scratching your head that, okay, I can't solve this question. How do you move forward? How do you prepare for it? So the first thing is, again, all the Wipro previous year questions, etc., you will be able to find it on our website. So all you need to do is to prepare section, and then from prepare section, you can just go to, just give me a second. You can just go to Wipro NLTH, and then from here, let's say for the coding part, you can go here and you will be able to find the coding questions here on all of these pages, right? So that's one thing. Now, if you want to prepare for Wipro, we already have our Wipro NLTH course, which will start everything from scratch. So let's say the question that I took, I promise you after completing the course, you will be able to be like, okay, fine. Yeah, it's a difficult question, but I'll try to solve it, right? At least I'll give it a try. So you'll not feel underconfident, right? So basically we are covering everything, aptitude, all of these things in aptitude, reasoning, all of these things in reasoning, verbal ability, all of these things in verbal, coding, all of these things in coding, which is very large, right? And written communication test, all of these things. And for your interview preparation, we have all of these courses. And the benefit of Prep Prime is you don't buy just one course. It's like Netflix. You don't buy one movie on Netflix. You get access to all the 100+ movies that are there on Netflix by using one subscription. Same thing happens with Prep also. You are not just buying Wipro course because you are getting your Prep Prime subscription. You will be able to access AI, ML, ethical hacking, AWS, C++, Java, Python, Quants, CoCubes, AMCAT, companies like DXC, Wipro, Persistent, group discussion projects, etc. The most important thing here would be, so basically, a lot of people say, sir, I'm not good at coding. We'll be recommending you to start here, basic coding. So basically, syntax. You will remember all of the syntax. You will know how to create arrays, strings, etc. Then intermediate coding is like basically will take you to a level of the first question that we solved, and then you'll be like, okay, I know everything, and this is easy question. And then we'll move you ahead to data structures in your preferred language, that is C++, Java, Python, whichever is your preferred language. Because obviously data structures would be asked. So last year there was a question that we got to know, which was in searching in binary search tree and insertion in a BST, etc. So that was ours in Wipro's exam. So all of those and comparative coding after completing DSA. So even though comparative coding will not be relevant for Wipro, but as you're preparing for placements and you want to be aiming for companies paying more than 10 lakhs, so let's say once you are done with all of this, then you can go ahead with the comparative coding part as well. So you'll get access to this as well, and obviously your Wipro course. If you want to understand, and also certification from Prepinsta and also TCS Ion as well. So you'll get you'll get two certification, one from us, one from them. There are some modules of TCS also that you will need to complete. Also, if you want to check the different course list, so you can click upon here, and then it'll land you to a page which is basically, let me just open it very quickly. So you'll be able to check all the courses that are available on Prepinsta Prime. You can check their syllabus, you can check their demo videos, etc, etc, right? And let's say if you want to check demo video, same thing, you click here on demo videos and you'll be able to see all the various different courses that we have. You can check the demo videos for all of these courses, which will give you a confidence in terms of the quality of the course, right? We'll also play a short trailer for you afterwards. Also, I'm here now showing the data structures course, which as of now is really important for your Wipro preparation. So these are the course that I'm showing. Trees is very important for Wipro. So 50% chances your second question would be based upon data structures, and 50% chances it will be based upon the kind of mathematical or geometrical question, but a difficult one that I just kind of showed you. So thank you so much. Do not forget to follow us on all of our social media handles, right? Like all of these, to get all of these off-campus updates and top 3 comments. If let's say you think your code is a little more optimized than mine, I guess you stand a better chance to get the Prime Video subscription as a top 3 comments if you do that. So thank you so much. I'll see you soon ahead in the next upcoming few videos. Thank you.